Hello everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to one more live streaming here at the FCP.co. If you are not yet subscribed to the channel, that's a great opportunity to just hit that button there and subscribe. And of course, we do appreciate if you like this video and engage on the conversation. Today, we're gonna be talking about Color Finale 2. And this is a really big update I already installed here on my computer. I started playing with it, and I can't wait for you guys to hear more about from the actual people that are making this tool. And of course, today is the day that people are already ordering their Mac Pros. I think it's a tool that's going to go really well with that brand new Mac Pro and the Pro Display XDR, right? So with me here today, we have Mike Grieve. Hey Mike, how are you?
I'm very well, Philippi. How are you?
Very well as well. And we also have Dmitri Lavrov. How are you, Dimitri?
Hello, very good, thank you.
Great. So guys, you have been working really hard on Color Finale, right? Mike, can you give us a little bit of a backstory about you and the project for us?
Yeah, that's fine. So I've worked in the industry all my adult life, actually. I met Dimitri at Filmlight a few years back, but going back to the beginning, I think I've done just about every discipline from audio consoles to compositing, systems integration, color grading, color management, the whole variety. But it was where Dimitri and I came together at Filmlight that we began enjoying traveling around Europe and selling high-end color correctors and scanners and color management systems, and we often talked about at some stage in the future getting together and doing something, and we didn't do that until probably about 3 months ago, and here we are, the launch of Color Finale 2 today. So yeah, it's been a long time coming.
Wow. And Dimitri, what about you? I'm pretty sure that you're very excited to actually let the tool to be in the hands of a lot of people after so much work. Do you have some small comments or words to share with us?
Well, I'm a computer graphics developer, so programmer, but I was doing visual effects from late 80s. Visual effects, 3D compositing. Then I think in the end of 90s I got disappointed with the tools which are out there, and I wanted to develop my own tools. And I went back to programming again, and I worked for Filmlight as a software developer and product manager for color management system. And I worked with lots of film production, helping them set up color grading workflow with Filmlight tools, calibrating film projectors and traditional film workflows. Then I worked as a consultant and a DI supervisor for over a dozen of feature films.
Wow.
And then we built No. I was gonna say we built a system for Pinewood Studio to do dailies processing with a bunch of computers and GPUs. It was very fast systems which we use on Guardians of the Galaxy, Avengers 4, and lots of things. And then after that. I started building plugins because Denver Riddle actually found me, and we built a LUT utility for Final Cut. It was Final Cut X. I bought Final Cut X actually on the first day, so I didn't know why I wanted it. It's just there was a new software which is very exciting. And I thought maybe in the future it would be a good test bed for some of the ideas I had. And building LUT utility was very simple project. I would just want to see what it's like, why people building plugins. And apparently it was hugely successful. And I've discovered that audience of people who actually very keen and they're friendly and they interact with you unlike say big film productions, it's just big factory, so you just do your job, and it's a good, but working with the Final Cut users is a very different experience. And then we continued with building Color Finale. Color Finale was when it was 2014 I started. Another skunk project, I was doing something else. Working on the films, and there was in between of something else. And then with Color Finale success, I switched and started doing Color Finale full time. So building tools and doing support, and it was quite exciting.
He's pretty understated, but he's done an awful lot. Trust me.
Well, it's I think that small bet that you had in Final Cut Pro 10, if you think back, led you to have a full-time job doing a plugin that you actually really like it. So I think that was definitely a good decision, and it's very good for everyone else that's using the plugins.
Yeah.
So congratulations for that. And also with us here we have Sarah Kimberly, and I'm really hoping that I'm not gonna butcher too much your last name. No, maybe I'm not gonna try. You tell us. Sarah, how are you?
Yeah, I'm fine, thank you. Welcome. Good evening.
How do I say your last name?
Well, you could try it with Euschen.
Euschen
That would
is
be like
okay.
the English version. In my native language, it's actually Euschen, which nobody can pronounce anyway. So.
Euschen.
Okay.
Okay, we give it a try. And can you let us know a little bit your background? Because we've seen you doing some very nice posts and comments online, but people haven't seen much of you talking on video. So it's very good to have you here with us.
I would say this is about my first live appearance in 5 decades. So I'm going to give a bit of my age away. So.
Oh, wow. It's like seeing a unicorn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about what do you do nowadays?
I work as a visual artist mainly in my day job. I started off as lighting designer, worked my way through lighting design into director of photography, ended up between things in post-production, in visual arts, CG, 3D, and I got my first Final Cut copy as a beta version in late '99, and since then I've been working with Final Cut Pro, and then along the way I met Dimitri, and we kind of became collaborators and friends, I guess, and that's that part of the story.
And Dimitri and Mike, they are located in the UK, correct?
In London, yeah.
Yes, and Sarah, you are in a place that is not a very common place that we hear about people working in this industry. Where are you right now?
I'm in Qatar in the Middle East, between Saudi Arabia and Dubai, which is a bit... Well, most people know our name by now because of the Football World Cup that's going to be here in 2022, so...
Yeah.
And we're home to Al Jazeera, a world-renowned TV network to the likes of BBC. So you can imagine there's a certain amount of infrastructure and supply chain to a network like Al Jazeera, and I'm kind of feeding off those different things. So.
And you've been there for quite a while, right?
Yeah, I came first about 2002, and I'm permanently here since 2004.
Wow. Okay, that's a very long time. And of course, last but not least, we have the editor-in-chief of FCP.co, Peter Wiggins. Hey, Peter, how are you? And you're not in your typical place where you're connecting with us. Where are you now?
Hello, everybody. Very pleased to see everybody, especially the people with the Sarah's knowledge on Twitter is immense. You've got to follow her, because she knows a lot about the business and a lot about how things work. So a good recommendation there. Very pleased to see everybody. I'm in Manchester, and I am working on a new Channel 4 property series, which is edited on Final Cut Pro 10. Very pleased about that, and we're right in the middle of it at the moment. So full day today doing it after a busy last week. So yeah, very pleased to have everybody on, and quite excited to hear a bit more about Color Finale Pro and Color Finale 2.
Yeah.
So there it is. This is our panel. Me, Felipe here. We have Mike, Dimitri, Sarah, and Peter. And of course, Color Finale came out, what, today, correct, guys?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so what can you tell us about Color Finale 2, other than it's probably better than Color Finale 1?
You would think it's more.
Yeah,
so Dimitri and his team has probably spent the last few years putting all these wonderful features together in a product that would allow Color Finale to kind of address not just the mid to low, but the mid to high end of the marketplace. So taking his experience from coding for Baselight, for film light, and looking around at some of the latest image processing algorithms, he's collected together a collection of features really that have been either requested by users of Color Finale, or that we know that people are using in other sectors of the market. So this has all come together. We launched the product this morning, 10 a.m. GMT, and yeah, we're really excited about it. So lots of new things in there. Do you want to run through just maybe some of the beginning features?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Probably best to get the architect to talk about the features rather than.
Absolutely. I love to put the person that actually wrote the code under the spotlight. Yeah. I know, Dimitri, that maybe because you're a coder, you decided to be behind the scenes. You didn't decide to be right in front of the camera, but really, I think it's super powerful to actually see some of this stuff explained by the person that actually worked very intimately with the code there.
I think it's important to say here that obviously when Final Cut Pro first came out, we only had the color board. That was it when it came down to color correcting. Some people loved it, quite a few people didn't like it. So when Color Finale first came out, it was the first time we had that access to the wheels that everybody wanted to use their, to be able to do wheels. And I don't know if curves were in the first version as well, or the first release of it, but certainly overnight we had this third-party app that would give you access to the much wanted wheels.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to build curves. So curves were in the first version. Curves, I like curves and special implementation in Color Finale, which very much like in similar to curves in Photoshop. And
so I got it wrong. It was curves first and then the wheels.
Well, they were all together, but I wanted to build curves. So everybody wanted wheels, so we added wheels as well. I thought curves are much more flexible, but that's my view. But apparently people like color wheels, so we have color wheels and a lot loader and layers. And also, I wanted to build it slightly differently than most of the plugins. I thought it's very important to have a full screen image and to have a panel floating over image, so you can have a more space and see all the controls. So that's why we built it in like a floating panel, which was kind of I guess rare at the time, and the other plugins appears with the same sort of design. With the Color Finale 2, we have I said I'm a programmer, but I have quite a large group of people worked on the Color Finale with me. So it's not me anymore. There was quite a few people who are very clever and have a doctorate and know about image processing and math and GPU and system programming. And there's lots of things went into Color Finale 2 from a system programming point of view. So we have
it's Metal compatible, right? So you're using the Metal frameworks on this one, right?
We do, yes, we do. We've managed to add Metal without going into new final FX Plug 4. This is a new architecture which Apple just introduced, but we wanted to do Metal even before, so we started a long while before. So we had different technology. We use OpenCL. This is another computational GPU network. And then we moved to Metal as what everyone we thought is moving, well, Apple at least. And it was amazing in terms of performance. We saw about 4 times performance against our OpenCL implementation, and that was okay. Well, that's what we wanted to do, and that's it was because both OpenCL and Metal originally architected by Apple, so it was relatively easy to move from OpenCL to Metal, and then we now continue with Metal, and all the new development goes into Metal. So shaders and things like that. Also, with Color Finale 2, we wanted to have inspector controls, like primary controls, available immediately to the user, and those controls are designed to be familiar, like using camera concept. So in the camera you have exposure and you have white balance, and everyone understands those concepts. And actually you can do lots of things with just those tools. Like going back to, say, film color grading, you only had the printer lights. With the printer lights you can change exposure and the color balance, and that's how films were graded for decades. And if you have a good image, you can do lots of things with those with those controls. So if you are editing, say, a long form program with Final Cut, and you just need balanced shots, you can do it very quickly with those tools. So the tools to work, they need to be in the right color space. And for that, we use, well, I have to say praises to Final Cut, because that's the only system on the market which actually uses proper color management on the Mac. So there are other systems which use color management, but it is either homegrown or sort of not fully implemented. With Final Cut, you get a fully calibrated workflow with the display, and then you can render images to web browsers, and then you get the same colors, and that's all. Like very simple test. You have two MacBooks. You have you select the right display on each MacBook, which is on by default, and you view your video on one and on another, and they will look identical. Yeah. So it's not the case with other systems. So you have to do things with the display settings and making sure it's all selected. With the Final Cut, it's all automatic. And internally, Final Cut offer a full floating point image processing architecture on the GPU. So if you sort of hooked up into the right point within your plugin, so you get the full range data, fully color managed. All you need to do is just not to destroy it. So that's what we're in Color Finale 1. Was more like a video type processing system, but when Final Cut moved to HDR, our curves, for example, were limited because they were clipping at the level of video as what we would have done in the traditional color correctors. But now with the Color Finale 2, we take into account all the color spaces which introduced by which Final Cut uses. So wide gamut, and you can all the HDR, PQ, and these things. So we decode them correctly, and then we process data internally inside a Color Finale, and then we return it back. So you can you can grade HDR. And then make sure, and you will be certain that values are there and they won't be clipped.
And I imagine that it's already all tested with the 10.4.7, of course, version that has the tone mapping on the viewer. Or does that affect in any case?
The plugin sits in the main pipeline. We don't even touch display. All we need to do is just to get image and return image in the same color space, but with the Color Trix. So we need to not to destroy image. That's the most important thing. Then Final Cut take care of everything else and the color management. So that's very important.
Okay, so if I'm understanding correctly, the very first thing is you are interpreting the footage and then Final Cut is displaying on the viewer, correct?
No, Final Cut is actually interpreting footage. So as a plugin, you get image buffer pixels with the values, and then you take these pixels and then you manipulate the pixels and you return them, preferably without messing up with the color space and tone curves and things like that. So it's actually maybe sort of side note, but people ask, oh, can you support camera A or from this manufacturer in your plugin? We wish, but unfortunately, as a plugin, we only have what Final Cut gives us. We don't actually deal with footage from, say, Red Camera. So it's all done by the Final Cut. So and that's the limitation for us. But also advantage, we don't have to think of, oh, how this frame gets to our plugin. So Final Cut takes care of it. So we can work on the interesting bits rather than. Also,
at the moment that Apple or Final Cut includes, for instance, Blackmagic Design RAW codecs into Final Cut, you will be automatically compatible with that as well. Mm-hmm. And as Dimitri told me yesterday, you can feed into it 360-degree footage, mm-hmm. and it's one of the first color grading tools that fully supports 360-degree footage. I mean, try that on the result.
So there is one interesting question here from the audience. It's from Ben, and he says, seeing the newest update features seems like a dream software to use with a control surface. Do you have any hardware support, like for example for the loop deck?
We have a very strong relationship with tangent devices, and we have always support, since a long time, since 2016, we support tangent panels, and they are colorist panels with the balls and the knobs. Gives you a familiar environment. So we open to add other panels, but I also I think for color wheels, the only panel is a panel with the balls. So this is what you do when you color grade on telecine. So it's not about precision. It's not that you could not grade on without the panel. But if you ever watch telecine colorists, they use balls arms, and then they swing and they touch the ball, so they balance out. One gesture gets the picture right straight away, and for the trained colorists, they can go through a long format program very quickly by just using balls. That's the main reason you want to have a panel, the speed.
All right, but the loop deck, it's specifically, is that something that you think of maybe adding support, or? It's
we engineers, we like building tools. If someone gives us tool to build against,
lots of people ask for it.
It's not something, we are very, very much keen to build tools for our system, but they also need to be valuable. Like we wouldn't pick like a random surface and say with a slider and make color correction tools out of this. There won't be any use. I can see, for example, building something again for say using MIDI interface, because there's lots of devices out there with the knobs and buttons, and for £50 you can actually get lots of knobs and switches, and adding them to say Color Finale would be beneficial. You can make it like a hotkey panel very quickly. So that's something we actually we had it for a while internally, but so far nobody asked us, and that's we just write lots of things, and sometimes people ask and we say, oh, we have it, but we will write anyway.
I keep asking.
Well, yes,
it's a good point though that some of these features in Color Finale 2 actually have come from user feedback. The whole floating windows that you can resize. That was absolutely
Well,
from a user feedback.
I
Okay.
have to Sarah for one tool which I'm jumping here from
No, yeah, that's great because you're saying about features that are coming from users. So I'm definitely looking forward to hear more about these new features from Color Finale, and maybe even to hear a little bit about which ones are those that were user basically pressure to get there.
Is in there were like hardware waveform monitors and vector scopes.
Yep.
They were very sophisticated. They are sophisticated and expensive in the television industry, and they had this functionality when you can actually define the window on the image and you can see waveform or vector trace within the window. So, and we thought, oh, how could we do this in the and Sarah said, wouldn't it be nice to have this thing in Color Finale? And she actually hacked some motion template which did it for her. And I said, well, this is very good. And then we see what we can do, like making it non-destructive. So within FX plug environment, it's quite, you don't really have a control over application side of things, but we wanted to behave exactly as we wanted. So we found a way without breaking Final Cut how to overlay some images and make sure we can isolate areas. So now you have this ability, which is useful not only for colors, but for editors even. So if you want to see, for example, what kind of colors within the area, you can use this isolate tool, which is in Color Finale too, to select the area, and they will show you trace for this area only, limited everything else. Or which I always like a single line trace every time I develop algorithms. I want to see where I'm clipping, so I've added that too, so you can actually take a scan line and see the trace of single line within the Final Cut. It's not even for colorists. This is useful for everyone because all my footage is clipped, and you can't really see it on the waveform because you have these overlaid lines. And with the Color Finale, you can do that. So that's useful, and it's completely down to Sarah because that was her idea. And I love working with people who give us ideas or challenges. Challenges are even more important. Say, okay, can you do this? Okay, yeah, well, let me see what we can do.
I think it's fair to say that the features in Color Finale 2, I would say, split into three sections. One is feedback from existing users of Color Finale, things that are requested, like, we talked about Sarah requesting the windowing on the vector scope. I think the other part is, Final Cut Pro X is an editor's tool. I used to be an editor. I understand how that works. It's really important for an editor to balance all these shots and really quickly get the primary color correction straight before you put the look and the feel and the grade on. So the other section was getting those shot matching tools as fast as they possibly could be. I think the last section, which is, some of the features are in Color Finale Pro, some are in the standard version, is really features that would allow people to either not have to go and buy a plugin that's going to cost as much as Color Finale 2, or why they would leave Final Cut Pro X to go and grade an external system. So those are the three kind of categories that I think that's fair to say, isn't it? Yeah.
And I also want to add, since we're doing this, it's kind of, it might sound strange, but we're doing this full time. There's a group of people, quite a large group, working on the tools, just building color corrector for Final Cut. So we don't do anything else. We just spend our time entirely doing writing code, developing algorithms, talking to people, doing support for color corrector plugin for Final Cut. That's our life, and that's why we're so keen to hear ideas and work with people. We can try, it might not go well, so we might not be able to implement. There are some ideas which are not possible to do within Final Cut, but we still try.
Okay, I have a question for Sarah. Sarah, can you tell us a little bit, maybe what is your favorite new feature on Color Finale, and maybe why?
Oh my God! Okay, that's a long list actually. I mean, it's a little bit what Mike said before, that you can do a lot up front now, like from the inspector panel itself, like this, just conforming and major main adjustment things before you go into the very complicated bits, because that really speeds up the process dramatically. I mean, Denver has done a fantastic job on the new contrast and pivot functions, combined with the built-in white balance management tool and everything. So you can actually really jump from clip to clip to clip and just polish the big bumps out in no time, without really going in depth, and that saves a lot of time. And that's definitely one of my most favorite things. And then, well, it continues on the back end with the finishing tools, that I don't have to go and slap another film grain filter onto it, or another sharpening thing. I just go and crank up the slider a bit more, and it's already built in.
Okay, so for you guys, it's gonna be kind of maybe a stupid question, but why would someone use Color Finale and not the wheels and curves and hue saturation and etc. from Final Cut itself? Maybe it's Sarah first.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I mean, I have a very practical way to do it, and I've been posting about this a bit in the last few days, and it's what Dimitri said before about the floating panel. In Final Cut Pro, I'm editing on two 27-inch screens right now, and maybe in a couple of days on two 32-inch screens. I have another 32-inch screen as my preview monitor. That's a lot of real estate, and when I have Final Cut Pro, which doesn't allow me to customize the user interface like other systems do, I end up having the inspector like at the far right or on the far left or wherever, and my eye constantly has to be traveling between preview monitor, the built-in preview display port, and the color grading tools that are native in Final Cut. But now I just float the entire thing over to the other screen, and in the new version now you can even resize that panel. That means I can make it as large as I want, and with that the responsiveness scales as well. And when a slider becomes longer, the sensitivity changes as well. So I can actually make it really big if I need to really dial in really fine details, and then just size it back to the practical side. And with the native frame comparison functions in Final Cut Pro, I have half the screen is my live image, half of the screen is my frame reference, and in between I have the Color Finale color grading panel, and my eye just literally left eye on this, right eye on this, and it just ping pongs left and right until it matches. And then I can even have the scopes open on both of them. And then my third favorite feature is my own feature, the isolation function, where I can really go and select somebody's forehead for a skin color reference and have that on the scope. And I do the same thing on the reference frame. And then it goes like, I could literally say a colorblind person could color grade this way.
There you go. That's a good feature.
I group it into three sections. I think for me, again, because I'm more on the marketing side, but I think for me it's workflow. Workflow is the key thing here. We think we should actually do a little race and measure it, but we think that the workflow that we've got with Color Finale just allows you to do things faster than with the native tools in Final Cut Pro X. I think also it's the granularity. It's the degree of fine control that you can get to and how fast you can get to it on the controls. And I think the last thing, obviously, is the missing elements that you don't have in standard tools that you do have in Color Finale that, you know, allows people not to have to go off and buy 3 or 4 other plugins. So I think that's the selection.
I also we've added lots of assistant tools, so you could it's not auto grade, but it helps you to define your image quickly by picking on the areas which you know about. So for example, we have white balance, which is automatic balance. You click on the button and it will work out what's in the image, and it is there. Or you can pick the area which you know should be gray or whitish, and it will balance it for you. or the same thing with the exposure. Say if you have a gray chart and you know how it should be exposed, we all do. You can click on that area, and then we'll set the exposure to make sure that the gray chart is exposed as we expect. And then if you go for all the shots and click on the grays, it will balance out all the shots for you. And you can really, you don't even have to be you don't even have to see. You can just do it by numbers. It will do it for you. And
well, I can. Go ahead.
In the telescenic controls and the curves, everywhere where we can assist users, we don't make decision for the user. We assist user to address the right areas of the image, and then they can say, okay, I don't like it, or that's what I want.
Well, I can tell you that one of my favorite features, and it's not even a new feature, is actually the support for the passport color checker. That for me, it's a huge time saver, mainly because I suck at color correction. So at least I want to have a very decent place where to start, and then that helps me out throughout the whole thing, and I love how easy it is to use. Now, we do have a question here real quick. The question is from Gabri Spalding, is how would you describe what the ACES working color space is versus another color space, and how does it benefit the average video professional, or does it benefit the average video professional?
It's got to be you.
That's a question for him up here.
It's
why ACES?
If you work with certain types of cameras, so ACES is a very good idea. So this is it designed to assist to match cameras easily, or different source materials easily. So you go into a working space from different imaging devices, and everything is unified for you, and then you tone map it, and then you display it. So if you have a image from one camera manufacturer and from another camera manufacturer, if you go for ACES, it ought to work. So in theory, it's actually generally works really well. And camera manufacturers, some of the camera manufacturers choose to publish camera data or color spaces. And if your camera is supported, you're in luck. You have, say, two cameras from two manufacturers who provide IDT, input device transforms. And then if you use ACES, your camera match. So, and then you can use exposure and white balance, and you don't have to worry about a color match. It will be done for you. So that's the thing. Also, ACES tone mapping has a specific filmic look. So if you go from say Sony S-Log3 through ACES, you get a specific quality of the image, which is designed by people who work closely with the traditional film. So the look of your image is wonderful. And also, if you want to go and do some DCI for DCI projection within Color Finale, you could use ACES for this sort of transforms. You can grade on, say, DCI projector. If you connect your DCI projector to your Final Cut workstation in XYZ color space and use ACES, you can actually see images in the correct color space. That's really maybe too advanced, but in principle, because we have a full implementation of ACES, we used to use reference implementation from Academy, but for Color Finale 2, we rewrote our own implementation, which is faster, and we went through all the bits and to understand and see how it works. I also want to go back to color charts, which you mentioned. With the color charts, lots of people actually like the concept, and people understand when people understand the technique. So if you give them device and clear instructions, they will follow them and they get results. So there is no ambiguity. So you have a camera, you put the chart in front, and then you measure and then you mark it, and they will set up color correction for you. of course, there are limitations, and you need to know how to photograph color charts. So if you have some mixed lighting, so you have daylight on the background, and you have a tungsten light shining on the a color chart, it wouldn't work well, because you would know what you're trying to match. Is it the background or foreground? With the new Color Finale 2, we have a whole set of new algorithms to address all of this. So you can actually, we try not to clip colors if we could help it. So we guess what it should be, and if it's a different lighting and that kind of stuff. We also support large color chart, which people prefer. So if you X-Rite, actually, they produce huge charts now, and I was thinking, why would you need that? And you actually need the color chart if you're shooting from a drone. So even from a drone, you can get color matching, and you can take that image into a Color Finale and then mark it, and you get a camera matching. Maybe you matching 2 drone cameras or something.
Or the drone to the rest of the cameras that are on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really cool. Are there other features that we should know about? Is there, or maybe is there a top feature?
I've got a question here, because I think I'm in the minority. I actually haven't used Color Finale 2 yet. Things have been a bit busy. We have to
convince Peter.
Well, no, I think I am convinced. And one of the things that convinces me is the built-in tracking. So I'd like to know a bit more about what the built-in tracking can do.
So it's it was on our to-do list from day one when we released Color Finale 1. So people were asking, can you do tracking? Can I do tracking? But we found other ways, and we didn't have enough resources to actually write tracker. And well, when we were thinking of starting Color Finale 2, okay, we decided, okay, tracker that be, and we wrote our own tracking algorithms, and it's area tracker. You can isolate objects with. We built our own shape tools and animation system to. You know, the actual tracking is not that difficult, but to make everything else but tracking is difficult. So you need to draw tools. Curves, you need to edit curves, you need to have layers, you need to be able to intersect curves, and do all sort of things, and how to render them with the image, and all of that. That's the most difficult thing, and then everything which shapes around it, you can just say, okay, track it, and the algorithm will figure out how to follow the object, and it will stick shape to the object. So if you have a face, you can.
Is that similar to what, for example, Resolve has?
Yeah.
Oh wow! So now we have that in Color Finale inside Final Cut Pro 10. Wow.
So does it do kind of like rotation and X and Y? I mean, is it a point tracker or an area tracker?
It's the area tracker. It's a 2D area tracker. It's you can do. Translate rotation and scale. So if you have object and you'll be dancing and moving, it will follow you. It wouldn't do 3D tracker because we thought it's not a visual effects tool. Most of the time, people just need to follow objects, and if objects sort of move away and shrink, and the shape would follow it. And
you also have multiple objects in one image. I mean, you can track multiple shapes within one image.
Yeah, true that. You can track one object and then move it to another. You can retarget and that kind of stuff.
So if I've got 2 items on the screen and I need to color correct them both, then I don't have to have 2 instances of Color Finale or whatever. I can do that all within the one plugin.
No. I guess this is actually interesting point with the plugins. So the way, the less plugins you use in your chain is actually makes your rendering quicker, even if you do simple things. So with the Color Finale, all our layers and tools, they all counted as one plugin instance. So you can add multiple layers and tracking and shapes. There's no limit. I guess there would be a limit, of course, reasonable but we don't limit how many shapes you want to build. We also have a specific color grading tools, which is like an edge, soft edge. You can mask out, say, sky easily, and you can track them too as well. So if you want to draw and you want to sort of track horizon, you get that.
So you could actually build up a mask of maybe a solid image and then something that actually moves at the same time.
Yeah,
to hit all that in one hit, that's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
You can have you can have multiple objects. You can block some static objects, and then you can track something moving, and then you can even intersect areas of the shape, so you can say subtract something. You can make. I've just out of just for kicks, I created like a color finale text with the shapes, and I can track it all within the mask tool. I can like cut holes in nose and do things like that. So and you can have a feather and blur and
because you know what it's like when you're trying to color correct a shot, that you can get like 90% of the way there really quickly, and then there's always the front or the back end of a shot where something overlaps or something like that, and you have to put another instance of a corrector and animate a mask or whatever to do it. So that actually sounds a pretty powerful feature to be able to do that.
You can track, say, two objects, and then you can track one shape and another shape. Say you have say a car and a pole, and you want to block. You can track them and will intersect or unite, and that's everything is kind of possible. Sarah actually has a very good tip. We now have a group, layer groups in the color finale. Before we had like just separate layers, and we now added groups, so you can get like a bunch of layers and group them together and then fold them. So and give them a name. So it'd be like color correction of something. And what Sarah came up with, she actually, when she used tracking, she track a group, not the individual layer. So that means you can add stuff later. So you have your masks and tracking, and then you want to do like say curve, and then when you say, oh no, I don't like curve, I want to have HSL curve, and then you add that or replace it without breaking your tracking data, and you don't need to copy stuff. It will be all there. It's it's a very very difficult task to write animated tools for video systems, but I think we've nailed it.
Yeah.
Now, huge question. Actually, I have a huge question, but before that huge question, there are a couple of comments here that I would like to read real quick. In fact, was saying, great to see tracking masks in the Pro version of Color Finale 2. So we just talked about it. I'm wondering if we will see that in the next Final Cut Pro 10 update. So that small question there. Does it worry you that sometimes Apple will share lock features?
We had this, when we had this color finale for a while, for 3 years, and then Apple introduced their own tools, and of course we were like worried what to do, but then we realized there's so many users, so many users, daily users we have of color finale, and they email us and they continue using tools months and months after. This is the thing between, say, bespoke tools and sort of general tools. They're good, but what we can do things very quickly. So we can modify things quickly. We can add features. We can fix bugs, and don't wait for 6 months for next release. So if you're stuck with something you don't like, you have to wait. And this is the advantage of using plugins, I guess. And as I said, it's our full-time job. So that's what we do. We create tools. We fix things. If there's difficulties, we will
and work on the next big thing, right?
Yeah, exactly, Leo. That's the point. I think all we need to do is keep well ahead of the curve, and I think we already have 2020 tracked out for what we're going to do for Color Finale 2. going forward. So yeah, I mean, if you want the latest and greatest features and you want them quickly, then they're going to be in Color Finale 2 first. And yes, some of those might come in Final Cut Pro X at a later date, who knows when. But if you want them first, they're in Color Finale 2, and we'll keep doing that.
But nice. Users, as long as users using our tools, which we have to, so they support us and we support their demand.
Yeah.
So even say new tracking appears tomorrow, there's still people who like Color Finale, and that tracking wouldn't work inside the plugin, so you will lose performance. So our built-in tracker is here for help.
Yeah, and I think one of the advantages of adding more what I would call sort of high-end or pro-end tools is that we're going to get more feedback from those sorts of people who are used to doing, the cutting edge in color correction, image manipulation. It's going to help us.
And there is the other thing too. For you as a separate company, for example, from Apple, your development cycle is way faster than Apple could ever be. So for you having a lot of users using the tool and then telling you what they want, it's a lot faster for you to turn around those features than Apple could ever do that, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And we have another person commenting here, Keisha. He is saying, just bought my upgrade. So as we speak here, people are upgrading, which I think we're going to get to the part of upgrades and prices in a moment. Skyscope said, Windows on waveforms for analysis is one of the nicest new features. I liked it on the new Scopebox 4, but to have it now on Final Cut Pro 10 is just great. And then Ben has a question if there is a inside and outside mask, or like in Final Cut. So if, for example, you want to put a mask on someone's face and then you have two different adjustments with the same mask, or you're achieving that with layers?
You can do this with layers. You can have a different tool, for example. We can do it like a one-button selection if there is a demand, but because it's all down to flexibility. Flexibility versus usability.
I mean, you have actually a tick mark that inverts it, and then you have the blend modes which can invert it as well. There's more than one way of doing it. So.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
Okay, and it looks like that people are really getting alive right now. I'm getting a lot of questions here. I'm going to get 2 more questions, and then we're going to move on to talk a little bit about the licensing model. Mm-hmm. The other question here is, I'm not seeing how to upgrade from Color Finale Pro, so we're going to get to that in just a moment. The other one is from Joe Marler. He asks, can Color Finale 2 isolate an area or 2 adjacent clips, like do a skin patch for shot matching with 2 vector scopes? The current Final Cut Pro 10 comparison viewer cannot do this. I don't know if the question is very clear. Trying to understand here is if you can have both at the same time and do them at the same time. I'm not sure.
Well, I can answer the question from a user side because I've been working with this for a while now. On the shot matching reference side, you can have vector scopes open, but you can't have a plugin running on that one, so you can't crop or do anything on the reference side. On the live actual timeline clip, all the above, like what we said before, you can crop in and compare and so forth. So you would have to literally take a screen grab from a cropped image on the viewer port and save that as a reference image to do so, because that's something that the limitation is in Final Cut and not in Color Finale.
Or just drag that clip around on your timeline and crop it to the side and, and compare it that way.
That's what we used to do. I used to have a transition filter that I made to have side by side with the slider that I could do like a split screen kind of comparison.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about how people can get Color Finale, because I'm pretty sure that a lot of people are going to be coming from the upgrade path, right? They already have Color Finale 1 or Color Finale Pro. What are their options right now?
Lots.
There's I've spent the morning fixing up upgrades because there's so many combinations. It turns out because people have Color Finale, Color Finale Pro, and then they have different presets, packs, and we've heard if you already have a preset pack, you don't have to pay for it, and then we need to work out discounts. It's all like we have a very good upgrade pass for existing users. If something not working for them in this regard, please email us. But generally, there is a straightforward path from Color Finale to Color Finale 2, or from Color Finale to Color Finale Pro. People want to jump from Color Finale Standard to Color Finale Pro 2. Well, some people actually want to jump from Color Finale Pro to Color Finale Standard 2. And that's what I have a Excel spreadsheet on my screen with all the options which I was checking, and then I want the discount to be the same. So it's all, no matter what you do, you get a good deal for any combination you have. And there is a fixed price. The price is actually published on the website. But
it is,
there's
a matrix in there, so people, all they have to do is enter what they have currently as a product, and it will tell you what the upgrade price is, and then there's a token system that works.
We want to be very clever, so we want to make it easy. So you go and then you enter your email address, and you get in your mailbox, you get offers with the discount. So it didn't work well first couple of hours, but I hope it's all now sorted. So come back if it didn't work for you. We also, for security reason, some of those coupons will be available for 24 hours, and if you use up, you have to come back in 24 hours. But if you couldn't wait, email us, we'll sort out. Yeah. But I saw kind of half a dozen of complaints so far.
It should be whatever product you have from us. It should be a no-brainer upgrade for the tool set that you're getting. It should be really good value.
Okay, so for those who do not have Color Finale, like for example Peter, what are Peter's options right now?
You can give us a call right after this live stream. So for a new user coming in, they have an option. They can either buy the standard version for $99, or they can buy the Pro version that does have the mask and tracker in for $149, and they can do that on the site now. If they want to try it before they buy it, they can do that. It's a 7-day free trial. They can try that, and then it will prompt you to purchase afterwards if you want that. So we're giving people a fair shot to see if they think it's got enough value for the money. If it has, go ahead and buy it. So
we didn't raise prices from Color Finale 1. So some people were saying that this thing really should be like £300 or £1,000 because there's so many tools in there. I don't have to do this and this and that. I can just use
that. For me, it's a total no-brainer. The Pro for me, it's a total no-brainer.
Do you know? It's funny. We had emails this morning from people saying, "Oh, we think is it not a free upgrade?" And I just think, well, you spent 2 years more developing this, and we haven't raised the price. We kept it the same as the original Color Finale, which we weren't originally going to do. So we think rather than do the discounting, we'll just give it to the same price as the original version. And it's got so much in there. If you calculate the number of plugins you'd have to buy if you didn't have this, I mean, you're probably talking $300 already. So I think it's pretty good value.
Now there is sorry, Sarah, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I just wanted to make the joke. You can't even get an Apple XDR display stand for the price of Color Finale. You would have to buy 6 full licenses of the Pro version to buy one display stand. So it's a no-brainer.
There you go. Great. But now I do have a question, because there is one painful thing with using plugins, external plugins with Final Cut, is I'm working on my edit. I added Color Finale there. I paid for my license. I have a Pro license, for example. I made my colors, and maybe I'm working on proxies, or I'm an offline editor or something like that, and I need to send that library to someone else. When that person gets it, they don't have a license of Color Finale Pro. So what happens now?
Yeah, so that was an issue before, where it kind of limited you to working on projects where the client had a copy of Color Finale. So now what we've done is produce a free to download but non-adjustable version of Color Finale. So if you've created a project for a client and they want to view this, that they can actually get a copy of Color Finale without paying anything, and they can view everything you've done. They just can't adjust it.
It's basically just a Color Finale rendering.
Yeah.
So you get your project, you read it up. We haven't set this up on the website, but it will be available by the end of the week. So we need to figure out how. Actually, we're open for suggestions how it would work for your clients, because we can add it to your license, or we can create, client have to come and register. There's some kind of way is needed to issue that license. Someone needs to receive it on email or something.
Wow, that's really cool, guys. I mean, this I think is going to really help a lot of people out there. I have another comment here from Ben. His comment has only 2 words: upgraded. Boom. So there it goes. It's a no-brainer to upgrade at this point. Whoever has Color Finale, it's easy to upgrade. If you don't have it, I totally recommend to go and try it. I downloaded mine, and it's great. I need to use it more, of course. Now, what about Resolve? Do we still need to send our stuff out to Resolve, or do you think now we can actually stay in Final Cut and just finish it there?
So it's no surprise if you look at all our marketing that we sent out today in the last few days that what we're trying to say to people is, you can finish now in Final Cut Pro X. If you were exporting projects with the steps that requires, because you wanted to get mask tracking, film grain emulation, or sharpness, then you don't need to do that anymore. And in not doing that, you save the time of wrapping your project up. You don't have to deal with 2 different color management systems, and you don't have to deal with pinging, toing and froing backwards and forwards between systems. So we think if those are the issues that you left Final Cut Pro X for, then yes, you can now complete projects inside Final Cut Pro X completely. I think that's fair to say, isn't it?
Yeah. And I never sent my stuff to Resolve.
That's a bit a comment geared towards the community at large. I mean, for people that are interested in color grading, making it their profession in the future, I mean, that's a very good point in time now to jump onto Color Finale, because if you have a director or an editor that has the read-only version, but you're a colorist that works in Final Cut Pro, it's another revenue stream in the future. With a tangent panel and Color Finale 2.0 Pro, and an editor that has the read-only version, you can do full built-in color grading without ever leaving the ecosystem.
Yeah. And I think that's what everyone that uses Final Cut wants to get at, is to not needing to go that last mile to another application. You did all your great work in Final Cut, and then you get to that point and you're like, oh, please send it this AAF, or let's send it to an XML to Resolve. Like,
exactly right.
It's one step forward, closer to not needing to leave Final Cut. And it goes to say that I guess Final Cut Pro 10 is not becoming only an application, but it's becoming an ecosystem, a platform that people can just bolt on new features as they need.
Yeah.
Now, what's the future of Color Finale? Where we go from now?
Yeah, I said earlier on that Dimitri's been working hard and has a plan of features and tools going to the end of 2020, and so our feeling now is that we will look at doing maybe options or point releases between now and the end of 2020. But he's got even beyond that, he's got a list of things that have either come from existing users or they've come from high end. We know what people want there. Or they're just really good suggestions or really good algorithms that have become available. So we've got a huge roadmap ahead. And that's the thing, that Color Finale 2 is a platform that's going to allow us to add these extra point releases or options in going forward. So we had to do this first before we add all these other things in.
We will be building color grading tool out of Final Cut. And that's sort of intention, that's what we're planning to do. We have workflow ideas, how to do things in Final Cut even quicker with color grading, using metadata and that kind of stuff. we have a new image processing algorithms using machine learning, which is kind of a cool new thing. And considering the amount of GPU power people will be getting, we can do so much with that.
Yeah.
Did you guys already test it on a Mac Pro?
No.
Okay, I'm looking forward to see that Mac Pro running a bunch of these things. Now, Peter, last chance for you to ask a question to this amazing panel. Are you gonna buy?
I would say give me the elevator pitch for why I should buy Color Finale 2.
If you're well, there's different strands. If you're an editor and you need to match shots quickly, this is a really good tool for you. It's built to do a lot of these processes in a semi-automated way. If you're an editor that doesn't like wrapping up projects and exporting to third-party grading systems, now you don't have to. If the extra tools we have in Color Finale 2 are what you actually export your project for. And if you love color grading, whether you're an editor or a colorist, and you want the latest and greatest tools going forwards to the end of 2020, then this is the platform that we think they'll appear first.
Okay, and Sarah, what are your next steps now that Color Finale is finally public? You can start talking about it in public, and what you're gonna do now?
Yeah, I guess continue brainstorming with Dimitri behind the scenes, which we've been already doing for the past year or so. So like ideas that we have shared go into this roadmap 2020 or 2021 that Mike has mentioned, because there's a few big things that we've talked about, so that's exciting.
Okay.
And seeing user using it, because that's the amazing thing now that it's out. I mean, I had to be sitting on my hands and on my mouth for the past 6 months or a year and keep my screens covered up when I was using the beta versions and everything. So
now there is there is an audience member here. Contrast Video is asking one last question here, which is totally related to getting more people to use Color Finale, is when we're gonna see full tutorials coming online. Something that he's saying here, something longer than 7 minutes demos.
Yeah, that's a good point. And we had a date set. We had an discussion last night about whether we delay it to get the tutorials in. They're coming, by the way. They're being built now. But we decided to stick with the launch date. We put one up today, I think, which is just a very quick one we did last night. But there will be a set of tutorials coming, covering pretty much all the aspects of the features in Color Finale 2. So don't worry, they're coming. We're going to do them.
Yeah, we have, based on our background, we have lots of kind of experienced colorists who have graded films and TV programs. And then we wanted to build tutorials in two different directions. One is creative, so how to approach shots and based on their experience and maybe sharing their own LUTs, because people find that colorists say, well, you know what, I can show it and then I can give it to people. I have those LUTs, and then you can see how it's done, or presets. That's one direction. And another direction, I personally wanted to build technical tutorials, because people don't quite understand what's going on inside and how to do this. Nobody asked for it, but I think it's useful. I could probably.
I'm already asking for it then.
But I would like to hear if this is useful. If this is, we can move forward with that.
The next two tutorials coming are the basic features in Color Finale 2, and then another one on the advanced features, and we hope to have them out by, I'd say, the latest, the 19th, next week. Next week. Yeah.
We put them online. They will be free to access. So it's also I saw people doing reviews on YouTube today, and then they show things, and there will be lots of interesting information from other users. They well, maybe Sarah would put something.
Maybe.
Because she's got so many tricks and things like that.
That's been in the talks for a while. Yeah.
Well, Mike, Dimitri, Sarah, thank you so much for having attended this session with us, talking about Color Finale. I definitely looking forward to see everything that people are going to be doing with this tool. Any last last words that you have. How can people get in touch with you guys? Sarah, you first, maybe.
I don't think we need to extend it beyond like what I'm already doing. I think people know where to find me and where to see me. So.
Well, okay. Follow on Twitter.
Sorry?
Yes, definitely follow her on Twitter. This is very important.
Twitter, I have my own blog. I'm in the...
Which is amazing. I read it about GPUs. So.
Oh, so you're reading the things that you're teaching me. Okay.
Yeah, he's just double checking if everything is correct, right? What about you, Mike and Dimitri? How can people get in touch with you guys?
We now have a built-in feedback form inside Color Finale. If you really want to get like quick fix, when you submit feedback form, you will send the technical information about your problem, or so we know your environment, so you don't have to dig for files and stuff, or email us at support@colorfinale.com, which I personally answer, sadly.
He does, everyone. And you want me, anything commercial, marketing, events, collaborations, it's mike@colortrix.cc.
Okay, and ColorTrix is Trix, right?
Correct, yes.
All right. And Peter, I know that you want to mention something about what's coming up tonight.
I do. While we've been on, a person has submitted a Mac Pro and Final Cut Pro 10 review. I've yet to read it, but I know where it's come from. I know who's written it. It's probably going to be very good. But I think it's the first bit, and I think there'll be probably a bigger one a bit later on. I don't know. It might be the whole lot. As I've got the link right in front of me. I haven't downloaded it yet, but well worth watching out for in the next few hours, because knowing who it's about and who's written it is going to be good.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that. And for everyone watching this, thank you so much for staying here with us, participating. If you haven't liked yet this video and this was somehow helpful for you, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and of course visit fcp.co, because there you're going to find a lot of very interesting articles about FCP production and post-production that are related to all of this world. And guys, that's it. This was our panel. Thank you, Dimitri, Mike, and Sarah, and of course Peter for today, and I see you guys in the next one.
Great.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.